Welcome to the Pass Back Podcast. I'm your host, Jackson Moss. We are missing Cade today. He is feeling a little bit under the weather, but the show must go on, so it'll just be me today. Just a quick reminder that this episode is sponsored by the Texas A&M University Media and Gaming Lab. Without them, none of this would be possible, so we're very grateful. Going into this episode, I think if you clicked on this, you know we have a lot to talk about today. Obviously, change of leadership in the locker room, and Texas A&M is without Coach Jimbo Fisher anymore. 6 years into his tenure, he ends up parting ways with the university. The final record, I believe, was 0 national championships, 0 division titles, 0 SEC championships. So he ended up actually having a worse record than Kevin Sumlin, which is actually sort of impressive. But no, nonetheless, we'll get into the coaching roundtable a little bit later on and talk about who we are looking at currently and kind of who I really want to see step up into the job. But to start off on a more positive side of things, past week we beat Mississippi State 51-10, probably one of our best games that we've had all year. Commanded by Jalen Henderson. It was great to see him step into the starting quarterback role, and 11 for 19, 150 passing yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. You can't really ask for a better start from a third-string quarterback. Coming into Texas A&M, I kind of knew that Jalen Henderson was going to be someone more reliable at our third-string position, and oddly enough, it does feel like Texas A&M has one of the better depths, some of the best depth on their roster for quarterback position. And but like I said, you can't really be picky about Jalen Henderson's start. He was very mobile and gave the Aggies, in my opinion, one of the more dynamic parts of their offense that they're missing, which is the dual threat position, the dual threat aspect. But Jalen Henderson was also going to be my player of the week this week. Like I said, can't be too picky about his performance. But on the defensive side of things, I actually do have Jared Kerr. And it was really impressive seeing him step up. I know he's more of he's a younger guy, but this was a great game for him. He had a key sack that ended up in a Shamar Stewart scoop and score, which, by the way, didn't know I was going to be saying that this year, and that definitely wasn't on my bingo card for this season. But it was really entertaining and fun to watch Shamar, go down and score and have fun. But I think just the whole team was having fun. That was kind of the main topic, the main vibe of the stadium. I was there this past weekend celebrating my 22nd birthday. But man, I couldn't ask for a better game to go to on my birthday, and it was just fun watching everyone fly around. We'll get into the defensive side of things a little bit more as the show goes on. But yeah, no, I think Jared Kerr and Jalen Henderson absolutely had great games. But moving into a little bit more of the recap of last week's game, another key thing that I notice is that the offensive line becomes a little bit less of a problem with a mobile quarterback. Connor Wigman was able to kind of produce this a little bit, and you saw Max Johnson here and there screaming out of the pocket, making more plays on his feet. But when Jalen Henderson got out there and is rushing for, I forget what the exact yardage is, but it looked like no one could really stop him. And the time that we were giving the quarterbacks in the pocket slowly, looks like it's a little bit more than they need when Jalen Henderson's a little bit more mobile. But not to mention, the three-headed monster that we had at the backs, or at the running back position this past weekend as well, with Ruben Owens, David Bailey, who's a young guy. He comes in and gets a few touches. And then also Amari Daniels. They all rushed for nine carries each for a little bit over 45.5 yards. But it just looked like we were commanding the offense the whole game, and we were always in charge. And I couldn't tell you the last time I saw us score that many touchdowns in one game, but definitely our highest scoring game. And more on the defensive side of things, we shut down Mississippi State almost almost a complete shutout for touchdowns, and we forced 4 turnovers, which 3 of those, by the way, are interceptions. And before this game, we had 7 turnovers for the whole entire season, which was actually one of our biggest problems on defense, and it was something that we needed to work on. So it was really good and really refreshing to see. Like I said, our guys flying around, able to get a couple sacks and force some turnovers. Which, shout out DJ Hicks. It was good to see him get a few, get a half of a sack and a few big pressures on the QB. I thought he played exceptionally well. Once again, another one of our young guys stepping up into that position. But total pass yards allowed, I would say it's probably one of the lowest, if not the lowest, of the season. 108 passing yards, which, our secondaries have been a problem in the past, and especially this season. So it's nice to see us not letting up as many passing yards, especially when we're talking about Mississippi State and them being an air raid offense. But Deuce Harmon comes up big with one of the interceptions. Jacoby Matthews, man, I mean, this guy is having a couple games for himself this towards the end of the season. He's come up big again. He got an interception. I think he'll be one of our star players moving forward in the next few seasons to come. Tyreek Chappelle makes a great interception in the back of the end zone, over the shoulder. Yeah, he's been also very consistent. He was great last year, and it's good to see him starting to mature a little bit more and become one of the guys we can rely on. And slowly we start to see all these different, defensive backs coming into play and maturing. And I think it makes the average Aggie fan feel pretty okay with our secondaries right now, especially going into Abilene Christian. It's nice to have a big win and then go into one of our cupcake games this week. But yeah, no. So before we get into our coaching roundtable talk and who I really want to see at our next head coach is I want to do the SEC recap. So Missouri beats Tennessee convincingly, 36-7. I saw a couple things on Twitter and a few audio clips from Missouri talking about Eli Drinkowitz and that final interaction with Josh Heupel when they go to shake hands at midfield. I think there was some bad blood because of last year's game where they got blown out by 60 and also scored within like the last 10 seconds of the game while they were already up big on Missouri. But they go to shake hands at the end of the game, and Eli Drinkowitz tells Josh Heupel, all he says is, "Josh, we're standing on business." And that kind of went viral among all the Twitter feeds or X feeds, whatever you want to call them, and the Instagram. But so yeah, that was really interesting. I wouldn't be able to tell you that Missouri was going to convincingly beat Tennessee going into that. I definitely didn't think they had a chance. I think Cade picked them last week. I think I actually ended up picking. I think I picked Missouri. I don't know. We'll have to go back. We're gonna get the final record of the picks this season, but Arkansas gets blown out by Auburn, which was also another big surprise. I don't think anyone really expected that, especially Arkansas coming off their win against Florida in overtime. Georgia beats Ole Miss and moves them out of playoff contention. And LSU beats Florida, and I think no one else in the nation is going to argue about this right now, but Jaden Daniels is the clear Heisman candidate. 372 passing yards, passing yards, and 3 passing touchdowns, and 234 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. That is a real stat line. It's unbelievable. It's the first time in FBS history that anyone's done it. Over 350 passing yards and over 200 rushing. So props to Jaden Daniels. I'm not looking forward to playing him. I don't think Michael Penix or anyone else really, other maybe than Marvin Harrison Jr., but when you compare stats, and I think Jaden Daniels is a clear candidate for the Heisman. But no, I mean, it's always fun to watch him play. I'm just hoping it's not as fun to watch him play against A&M. So, but hopping into the coaching roundtable, and by the way, quick disclaimer, I know I said it earlier, but this episode is going to be a little bit quicker, just because I'm without my co-host today, and definitely need some people to talk to on the pod. It makes it a little bit easier to string out these segments, but So to move into the coaching roundtable, a couple of my top choices for the coaching position. I don't know. I feel like we talked about it multiple times throughout this season, but there's not really the greatest selection of coaches, especially now after Dan Lanning comes out with a press conference and tells everyone that he's here to stay at Oregon. Same with Mike Norvell and unfortunately Mike Elko, which was someone that I really wanted to keep, or not to keep, but to bring into Texas A&M and let him kind of command the offense and the defense. And I mean, I think if I had a wish list for what I want this coach, to be like, I would say my biggest ask is that he is a defensive-minded coach. That's why I wanted the Elko, and I wanted, or why I want, preferably Schumann. Schumann would be a great first choice for me. I would say if I have to give my top 3 right now, I would go with Schumann. I love Jeff Traylor. And then kind of a little bit more of a hot take, which I know a few people aren't going to agree with based on, a few personal reasons. I would say Urban Meyer might be a good someone who could step up into this position and go win a national championship. He definitely has great experience at Ohio State, but like I said, not the best off the field. But I think he could really do something for our program. I've been hearing a lot of talk about Deion. I don't want Deion personally. I don't think he's far enough into his head coaching career. I don't think he's experienced enough. And if he can't win in the Pac-12, I don't expect him to be able to win the SEC West. So, but one thing that's a little bit more worrisome going into, this new absence of coaching is our transfer portal. I think a lot of people have been already assuming after this season that we were going to have a lot of transfers, and a lot of people are panicking, and I would say it's completely warranted because there's going to be a lot of guys that leave when Jimbo leaves. I know Raymond Contrell is already one of them. There might be a few more younger guys that were recruited by Jimbo, but the biggest move that I think Texas A&M has made and Ross Bjork has made was giving Elijah Robinson the keys to the head coach office. I think with him being head coach, a lot of these guys are already bought into Elijah Robinson. They know him. It's a familiar face. Not looking at Bobby Petrino, not looking at DJ Durkin, who've only been here a little bit, a fraction of the time that Elijah's been here. I think it says a lot about A&M's respect for Elijah Robinson and how much we want to keep him, which, by the way, whoever we hire, we need to keep Elijah. He's one of the most important, if not the most important, roles on our coaching staff. So I think that was a great move by Texas A&M, though. And who knows? Maybe if Elijah finishes out, the end of the season with a couple blowouts, he beats LSU convincingly. Maybe he's a dark horse candidate for the head coaching job, and maybe we just bump him up and give him a couple years. But either way, no matter who we ended up hiring, I don't want to see someone come in for over, like, for a ridiculous contract, like over $50 million. I really honestly would prefer to see a couple year deal for $10 or $20 million and a little bit smaller compared to Jimbo. Which, by the way, his payout is going to haunt us until 2031. So, in my opinion, biggest highway robbery ever. A little bit more than Kevin Sumlin, but So, I think going into the next game, a little bit of a preview. I am hoping that our defense doesn't decide to give up a little bit more yardage than they need to, especially against Abilene Christian. It would be very Texas A&M of us to kind of struggle for the first half and let them get a couple points on us. But I think Jalen Henderson needs to keep performing, obviously, and I'm very excited to see Elijah Robinson head coaching. I'm fairly confident that he's going to give Bobby Petrino, the go-ahead and let him do his thing on offense. I'm interested to see how it turns out, and I hope it's a blowout. It would feel good, coming off 2 blowouts going into our next game on the schedule. But so for trending players of the week, I just kind of talked about it, but Jalen Henderson, he needs to perform, and I'm excited to see how he plays, especially coming off of this great game that he played against Mississippi State this past weekend. So kind of wrapping up this show, I'm going to go ahead and hop into my picks for the week. Like I said, last week was a little bit interesting with Missouri and Tennessee and a couple of the other games, but so this is historically the cupcake week for everyone. Everyone is playing no one. Alabama playing Chattanooga. That'll be a easy win, obviously, for Alabama. Ole Miss, Louisiana Monroe. I'm definitely taking Ole Miss for sure. Mississippi State, Southern Miss could be on upset alert coming off of this game, especially with the question mark at quarterback for Mississippi State. So I'm gonna go ahead and take Southern Miss Missouri on this one. Abilene Christian, Texas A&M. Obviously, I'm not going to say this one for last because obviously, I'm not going to pick against Texas A&M in this game, especially not against Abilene Christian. LSU, Georgia State. Jaden Daniels might have another legacy game and might win the Heisman after this game. I'm assuming it's going to be if they put up 700 yards last week against Florida. I'm hoping to see another fun game where it's I'm going to say over 750 yards, but I know it's a big ask because, like I said, no one's done it in history with rushing and passing. But I'm going to take LSU and Kentucky, South Carolina. This one I think is a little bit more up for grabs than people think. Everything in my gut tells me to take Kentucky, but I'm going to go ahead and take the Gamecocks on this one. I think South Carolina wins by a touchdown. FIU, Arkansas. Give me Arkansas, obviously. Florida, Missouri. This one's a little bit more interesting as well, but even though Florida beat Florida's had a bad couple of weeks with Arkansas and LSU. I think Florida's still going to play them a little bit close. So I'm going to say Missouri by 10. I think that Missouri just has a little bit too much momentum going into this week. So for Auburn, New Mexico, obviously I'm going to pick Auburn, and the main slate, which is going to be Georgia and Tennessee. Man, it's a CBS primetime game. I think Tennessee gives Georgia a little bit more than they expect, and I'm going to take the Bulldogs on this one. I'm going to say Georgia wins it pretty convincingly by 21. However, I'm going to say Tennessee puts up a good amount of touchdowns on them. So, like I said, it was going to be a short one today. It was really kind of a state of the union, talking about our head coaching position right now, and I'm interested to see what happens in the next couple of weeks. I saw that Billy Lucci was talking about, or I'm sorry, not Billy Lucci, but just Texas Radio was talking about that. We really do need to get a head coach by December 4th before the portal opens. I think the firing Jimbo was a great decision right now after this Mississippi State game, because all these last games kind of don't really matter to us that much. So we got a head start on the looking around for coaching. I know Dan Campbell would have been a great head coach to get, but we actually reached out to him and he ended up declining. So that's unfortunate, but very interested to see how these next few weeks play out. And yeah, hopefully we can slow the bleeding a little bit on the transfer portal. But I think that's about all I have for you guys today. Once again, quick reminder, we are sponsored by the Texas A&M University Media and Gaming Lab. So big thank you to them for making this all possible. But yeah, thank you guys for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And I'll catch you in the next week.